And you've just heard Push Pull, Not Falling for You, which is a single from Dara Dubh's new album, Go Like Crazy Big Moon, which is coming out in September. But I'm so pleased to be joined by Dara now. Hello.
Hello, Alistair. Thank you so much for having me on.
It's an absolute pleasure. And before we look forward to the rest of the album, what can you tell us about the song we've just heard?
So, yeah, that's the first single that's coming out from the album. I co wrote that with a good friend of mine, Eve Simpson. And yeah, I guess it's kind of about bygone relationships and, in a way, not tolerating kind of half measures anymore. And yeah, a nod to moving on from not being treated 100% in relationships, I guess. But yeah, it's a fun song. It's definitely become a bit of like a crowd pleaser at my gigs. Like people seem to really, really love that one.
It is a fun song. It's one of these tracks where you initially hear it, and because there's a lot going on in it, which we'll talk about there, and then you kind of listen to the lyrics and you go, "Oh, all right, okay." So that's what that's about, which I like. I like the fact that pop music in particular can do that really well. It kind of hides it.
Yeah.
Um, but as I say, there is a lot going on. Now, I've always thought that you're a musician who pushes yourself to kind of develop your sound and kind of
Mhm.
cross genres. But this track, and I'm going to presume the album takes it to another level. How did you even begin to just decide this is the direction I'm going?
Well, I always refer to my previous EP that I put out, the first EP I put out in my element. I just always call it an experiment. It was the first songs I was ever writing and releasing, and I think you can get really caught up in what your sound is supposed to be and having like an overall sound, and it's like, how are you supposed to know that until you've already like started putting things out? And after you've released something for a year, you listen back to it and you hear it quite differently. So, I like to think of everything else I've done up to now is an experiment, and now I'm still experimenting, but in a slightly more refined way, I think. Um, like I'm not shying away from singing in my own accent. I'm not shying away from bringing the harp into these settings and having the full band around it and seeing who else we can bring in and what other instruments can be involved and backing singers and um, really kind of like pushing that a bit more and uh, yeah, I think this song, because it's got the spoken word element in it again, um, it was really fun to play around with, like trying to make references to almost like older hip hop tracks and a bit of like gospel style. Yeah, it was just fun to play around with.
Is it typical of the rest of the album?
No, it's a bit of a mixed bag, I have to say. Like the common thread is always the harp and the vocals.
Yeah.
But you've really got, I like to think of it's music for people who like a little bit of everything, which is me. Like I listen to
Yeah.
all genres of music as so many people do. So, I mean, on the album, you've got a wee bit of bossa nova in there. You've got kind of more like classic singer songwriter. You've got a bit of like indie rock. You've got your kind of slower stuff in there. So yeah, there is quite a range.
Yeah, it's absolutely what I'm like as someone who loves music. It's like, how do you decide
Yeah,
what you're gonna follow? Um,
yeah.
I, Actually, we should mention the title of the album, "Go Like Crazy Big Moon."
Mhm.
Explain.
Do you know, so when I was trying to come up with my name as an artist,
Right.
like Do isn't my last name, and I'd been hemming and hawing and being like, what am I gonna pick? I want some of the ring to it. And when I was born, my parents called me Dara Dubh or Wee Doozy, because I had dark hair in comparison to my sister, who's very fair. And I liked that that was a bit of like a childhood name for me that could now be, reimagined and is has now stuck as my name now. And then when I was trying to think of the album title, there's there's like a wee plaque on my wall at home in our family home that says "Go Like Crazy Big Moon," and it was a wee thing that I apparently said when I was a child, and my parents were getting these two wee arty things made up. My sister said, "The dark sea sparkles on the night sky," and I said, "Just go like crazy big moon." And I was like, "That's quite a fun title, and there's such a mad range of genres on this. Like, it is a bit wacky, some of it, and yeah, it just felt quite fitting with the childhood name and the childhood saying. And
That's brilliant. What age were you when you said "Go Like Crazy Big Moon"?
like probably 5 or something, 4 maybe, I don't know.
Wow. The conversations between you and your sister sound as though they were quite interesting.
I know.
And it kind of touched upon the kind of influences and the wide range of influence that you bring to your music, particularly on this project.
Mhm.
Can you talk a bit more about those?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I listen to a lot of Norah Jones, and like I like a lot of kind of jazz style music. I like learning from jazz guitarists, and you know, I've kind of tried my hand at flamenco harp as well. So, in terms of playing music, I really like playing lots of different styles. Um, and then, yeah, I think just because I listen to such a wide range as well, it's really seeping into everything that I do. And it's just like accepting that rather than trying to corner myself into, you know, one genre. But like, I grew up playing trad music. I still love listening to trad and folk and kind of more like grassroots music. And I think that's very clear in how I play and how I sing as well. And then just trying to make it work with slightly more contemporary sounding music, I think.
Yeah, it's really kind of interesting. I think you can hear that that's, for want of a better term, the building blocks in which you're building everything else. But then you are this incredible
Yeah.
production and all these different musicians on it. And I think you said playing with the full band. Is it a band of musicians that are on the album, or is it people coming in to play on different tracks?
Well, we started off with like the core band, which was myself on harp and vocals, Marty Healy, who's the producer, on bass, and then Tony McVeigh on drums. She's great as well. So we started off with that as the foundation of it, and then just added layers and layers and layers, as you can hear on it.
And it's I guess I used to work as an editor of books, and one of your jobs was saying, "Well, I think that's enough." Do you know when it's enough when you're talking about the layers and layers? Do you know? Because I've heard musicians in the past talk out when they make an album just because they could do something. It doesn't necessarily mean they should do it.
I think that you can have as many layers as you want and then take them away
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you
yeah,
don't
yeah.
sound right. But I think you're better just going, "I sure we'll chuck that down, see how it sounds, and if you don't like it afterwards, you can always just take it away," rather than walking away from it being like, "Oh God, I wish we had just put like that one extra bit in there." I mean, this song is probably the kind of biggest production wise and instrumentation wise on the album. And it was it was a bit new for me having like so much on it. But I think when I envisioned these songs at the beginning, like a lot of them did have that big ginormous sound to them. So it's been so amazing being able to kind of like see that come to fruition now. It's been class. Like,
And you mentioned before we started recording that this is a live favorite. People seem to really like it. I can totally see why. It must be pretty big live.
well, at some point, I hope I'm able to get all of the musicians in to play. Hopefully, when we're doing like an actual album launch, I'll have the strings on it and the backing singers. But yeah, that's something I'm going to need to sell a few more tickets for, I think.
But I guess that's something I hadn't really considered. But I guess that's such a consideration. If you make a big sounding record or something like that, then how do
Yeah.
you replicate that live?
Yeah, I mean, something I really like though is seeing musicians in different settings, and like I play solo a lot with just
Mhm.
like my harp and my loop pedal, and I play this song in pretty much every set that I do, and it's kind of nice hearing it like in a really stripped back way, and then you hear it when it's like the core band, you know, bass, drums, synth, BVs. And then at some point, yeah, I'd love to have the strings come on and make it that real big, like fuller sound. Yeah.
So, I mean, actually, that's something that I've noticed over the last few years is that there are a lot of musicians who have bands, or at least, the recorded a big sound on the record. But I guess it's a bit of a test of a track or a song is can they do it solo or, just with a couple of people or whatever it is. So if you're lucky enough to get the big band, great. But you
Yeah.
can also, you're kind of flexible in terms of gigs.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, there's one song in the album that I've never played live before, and it's because it's like a real kind of like gritty, almost like punk rock track. And we're gonna be playing it at the album preview show. We're gonna do every single song on it, and I'm like, I have no idea how this is gonna work.
Wow, I can't wait to hear that myself. That sounds amazing. Yeah, we should say as we record this, you haven't yet done the album preview gig, but you're going to be doing one at Pianodrome, which is what a great place to be.
Yes, I absolutely love it in there. It's just such a beautiful venue. I'm such a fan of what they do and their whole ethos, and reimagining what an old secondhand instrument can be like. It's just class. I love it.
Yeah, for people who don't know, it's a venue in Edinburgh, which is made up of old pianos. That's the best way I can explain it, and it's an incredible place just to go and visit.
Yeah.
Apart from anything else, also the sound is made there is incredible.
Hmm.
And are you planning on doing future live gigs? Do you know yet?
I've got a very busy summer ahead of me at the minute. So yes, I've got a lot in the diary, and in an ideal world, when the album comes out, I'm going to be doing a UK tour with my full band. But logistically, I'm still just working a few things out there. But yeah, I'm going over to Ireland this year for 2 weeks at the end of July, start of August, and I'm going to be doing a tour around Ireland. I'm going to be doing a tour around Italy later in the year as well. But yeah, there's just so much to do.
Now, you mentioned that the harp is at the heart of everything you do, and for people watching the YouTube version of that, it's right behind you. So
Yeah, this is the big harp. So the big harp, she doesn't get took out very often, I have to say.
I can imagine. I can imagine. But now I've got this theory. I don't know if you agree, but the harp is. I was going to say having a moment, but I've been saying this for about 3 or 4 years now. There's a lot of fantastic harpists and harp music out there. Do you agree with that?
I completely agree. And I know it's easy for me to say that because I'm in the harp world. So, of course, I'll be seeing it more than other people will. But I don't think it's just harps. I think it's maybe lesser saw instruments are kind of like just edging their way to the front of bands.
Yeah.
I think it's happening with a lot of like classical sort of instruments as well, where like I don't know, now suddenly you've got like more like oboe solos in like pop music.
Yeah, cellos coming to the front as well.
Yeah,
The main instrument.
absolutely. And it's definitely happening with the harp too. It's a bit of like a resurgence of traditional instruments. And I think we see it a lot in electronic music, especially, but we're kind of seeing it happen a lot more now in just like contemporary music in general. It's great. Like I absolutely love to see it. And the harp is such an adaptable instrument. Like there's so much you can do on it, and it can be brought into so many different settings and just adds that little bit of like, I don't know, spice over the top of things. And yeah, I just absolutely love seeing it. It's really inspiring, to kind of be doing what I'm doing at the same time as all this happening. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something else which is very current. And it wasn't always the case, but the kind of crossing of genres, you've got folk musicians playing with jazz musicians, influenced by hip hop, wherever you might want to go with it. And I mean, a lot of that's on, what you're doing, exactly that. But I think it's interesting, particularly what you were saying about certain instruments being brought to the front, because some people might consider them classical instruments, but then they're also played in the folk world. The harp's a great example. It's played in a whole load of different places.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How did it become your instrument, so to speak?
Well, I started off playing the whistle and the fiddle in true Irish fashion, and then one of my music teacher's daughters had got a harp, and I saw it sitting in the room while I was waiting for my lesson one day. And was just like, oh, I need to have a go on that, and I sat down and was able to pick up a tune on it pretty quickly, and it was like, heart eyes popping out. I don't know, something about it just sort of called me a wee bit, and that's it. Like, I didn't start taking it crazy seriously until I came over to Edinburgh in 2019 and went to college here, and just like decided that was it. I was going to spend absolutely 100% of my time just playing the harp.
And was that a music college, that what you were studying?
Yeah.
Because as you mentioned with the big harp, it's not the easiest thing to be getting around the place.
Yeah, I mean, I only picked the big harp up a year ago. Like, that's not a new instrument, but it's new for me. It's secondhand and it's needed a bit of work done to it. I never thought I'd even have a pedal harp until I was, maybe in my late 40s. And then this one, kind of presented itself to me, and it was an offer I couldn't refuse.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
We spoke about influences earlier on. Do you have harp influences? Are there harp players that you know?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean, a really good example of a Scottish harpist is Savorna Stevenson. She does like proper jazz harp on the lever harp. It's amazing. She's kind of very impressive to see her play. And then the kind of flamenco influence that I mentioned earlier came from a harpist called Anna Chrisman, who is from Jerez in Spain. And I mind seeing her playing and just being like, wow, like that is crazy that she can play like that. Lisa Canny, absolute harp legend in Ireland from Mum and a Bird, like also just incredible and brings it into really bold new settings and brings the energy while she's playing. So yeah, there's definitely quite a few influences there.
I'm definitely going to check out flamenco harp myself because that just sounds amazing.
It is so cool. I really recommend.
I guess a harp's one of these instruments. It's got a great history to it, and there'll be a version of the harp globally. Every country will have some version of the harp.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think people kind of fight over who owned it first, But yeah, I think you're right. It was in lots of different formats all over the world, and it evolved.
Are you constantly, because of the way that you make your music and you develop your sound and all of those things, are you constantly thinking of what possibly you could do next?
A little bit. I try not to get too hung up on it though, because it's one of those things you hear people tell you a lot, being like, oh, so you need to have something else lined up then. And it's like, I get it, I do, but also like I'm making music because I enjoy it and I love it. And I think the next thing I do will actually be very, very different to this album. I think I'm probably going to strip it right back. Now I've got to do all the bells and whistles. And I'd love to just record like a fully instrumental harp album. I don't know. It's really hard to know. Like you kind of don't really know where things are going to take you. And I think it's important that whatever I do next, I make it for me and not because I feel like I have to.
Yeah. No, the reason I asked that question is because as we've been talking, we've just talked about so many different influences, and I just wondered whether you think, well, look, next time I need to get some, heavy metal on there or some opera or whatever.
Maybe. I'd be open to it. Like I really love trying new things and maybe like working with some new people, and I have no idea, but like I'm open to absolutely anything.
You said an interesting thing there about people say to you, oh, you have to think about what comes next, and I think we're in a situation now where you almost feel you can't stop, that oh no, you have to get something new out the next week, and there's just so much. I speak about this a lot with other musicians. There's so much music out there, and how do you get your music, to other people? I mean, is that something that you have to consider?
I think so. I think it's good to think about it, but I don't think it's good to for that to be your why. Don't think it's
Yeah.
good for that to be the reason why you're doing it. So I mean, there's people I know who, while they're working on their first album, have already got their third one written,
Yeah.
which is like insane to me. Like I don't have that. My third album is not ready. But yeah, I think that is kind of the world we live in, where
Yeah.
people always talk about building on the momentum, and that is absolutely true. But I also think, like, I mean, for example, like me, like I'm just one person. Like I don't have a team. I
Yeah.
don't have, all the all the things to just keep churning things out at like that kind of rate. And I think it's important to be really realistic of your own time and what you have the capacity for, and like not just forcing things for the sake of it, but like it should feel like natural in a way, and it should be enjoyable, rather than just like intense work because you have to, so I think it's finding a balance with those things. Yeah.
I think you're right. I think there's a real danger in trying to kind of just force things, as you say, to happen.
Mhm.
And the next question is, what is next for you? We've got the gig at the Piano Dome, and I'm sure that was a huge success. And you've got a busy summer, so I guess you probably can't think past that. And of course, the album coming out in September. You've got a few more singles, is that right?
Yes, so you can expect 4 singles over the summer. It's 1 single a month. And yeah, then the whole album will be out in late September if everything goes to plan, which I'm assuming it will. And then, yeah, honestly, I'm just going to be thinking about touring. Like, I love playing live, and I just want to be playing live as much as possible, and hopefully bringing the full band with me, and doing loads of festivals next summer. And I'll be thinking about what music will be coming out next, but so hard to know. So
Yeah.
hard to know when there's so many question marks hanging over the things that are to come out still. So yeah.
And you very kindly allowed us to play the next single, which is Oh Nora. And before we hear that, can you tell us a bit about that, particularly the title?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier that one of my biggest influences is Nora Jones,
Of
and
course.
yeah, my friend Eve Simpson, who also did a bit of writing on Push Pull, her and I co-wrote this song together because we both love Nora Jones, and it's just a fun song. I love this song. It makes me so happy. But yeah, Nora Jones is my like listen to her anytime kind of artist. Like if I'm sad, if I'm happy, if I'm mad, like I don't know, she's just my absolute go-to. And this song just felt like the right wee nod to Nora. So
Well, Dara, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me. All the very best with the album when it comes out, and all the singles and everything else.
all right, thank you so much, Alistair. This has been absolutely lovely, and yeah, I hope you enjoy the show.
And this is Dara Dubh and Oh Nora.